The Hollow Drums of Baiyun Ridge. Part 1. The Drums Beneath the Mist. The sound came again last night, low, rhythmic, like thunder wrapped in breath. 3 beats, a pause, then 2 more. At first, I thought it was the wind slipping through the pine hollows above the ridge. But the air here in Baiyun Village doesn't move that way. It's thick, weighted, carrying the damp smell of rot and iron. I arrived here 3 days ago from Chengdu, hoping to collect oral stories for my thesis on ancestral sound rituals. I thought I would be documenting superstitions, nothing more. Yet, even before my feet touched the village bridge, I knew something was wrong. The fog never lifted. It clung to the roofs, slid along the narrow dirt paths, and swallowed voices whole. The villagers avoided my eyes, bowing slightly when I passed, but never smiling. Their faces were pale, lips chapped from the cold, and when I asked about the drums, they turned away like I had spat on the floor. "Don't speak of them," an old woman hissed at the market. "Even the ground still listens." That night, the drums began again, faint but deliberate, echoing from deep within the ridge. The rhythm crawled under my skin, vibrating in my teeth. I counted the beats, tried to convince myself it was something rational, distant mining, thunder, machinery. But when I pressed my palm to the wall, the wood was pulsing. And in the dark between beats, I could have sworn I heard my name. Part 2. The village that forgot its dead. Baiyun is not on any modern map. It sits in a valley of perpetual shadow, wrapped by ridges so steep the sunlight reaches the ground only for an hour each day. The rice fields are gone, replaced by moss and weeds that never seem to stop growing. The air tastes of rust. The bridge I crossed to get here trembles with every step, its planks so old that they groan like living things. Beneath, it is a ravine, not water, but fog, rolling endlessly in silence. The villagers call it the breath of the ridge. I lodged with Li Shuang, a man whose face looked carved from dry bark. He was one of the last who remembered the drum festival, an ancient rite said to summon ancestral spirits during famine. The practice was banned generations ago, after it went wrong. The ancestors grew angry. Li Shuang told me one evening, hands shaking as he poured tea. They demanded more than the villagers could give. So the drums were buried, but the ground remembers every beat. When I asked where they were buried, he stared into his cup and muttered, "You'll find them when they find you." That night, the rhythm returned stronger. I woke to the sound coming not from outside, but from beneath the floorboards. The room shook in time with it. I pressed my ear to the ground and heard whispers bleeding through the earth, overlapping, soft, desperate. I couldn't understand the words, but they carried sorrow so deep I felt it like cold water filling my lungs. At dawn, I ran out to see if others had heard it, but the village was empty. No one in the streets, no smoke from the hearths. When I looked down, I saw my footprints in the mud, yet the ground was covered in another set, smaller, barefoot, walking right beside mine. Part 3. The Woman in the Shrine. The villagers avoided the northern path, but Li Shuang's granddaughter, Mei Lin, whispered that the old shrine still stood there. "The goddess of the 2 drums," she said. "She watches the forest, or what's left of her does." The shrine was half swallowed by the forest. Roof collapsed, walls leaning. Ivy coiled around the entrance like veins. A single red thread hung from the lintel, trembling as if stirred by unseen breath. Inside, the air was colder than outside, sharp with the scent of incense and wet soil. The statue in the center was hideous, a woman's body, but her face erased, scraped smooth by knives. 2 drums were carved in her chest, one cracked open like a wound. Around the altar lay offerings, wilted flowers, broken bowls, feathers, and something that looked like a tooth. As I crouched to examine it, a drop of water, or something thicker, fell onto my wrist. I looked up. Someone was standing in the corner. A woman, hair black and soaked, clinging to her skin. Her dress white, but torn, stained at the edges like smoke. Her arms hung limply, sleeves empty below the elbows. When she stepped forward, the air pulsed in rhythm. 3 beats. Pause. 2 beats. Her voice was a whisper that slid straight into my ear, though her mouth barely moved. They took my hands, so I could not play the drums. The rhythm began to pound again, shaking dust from the rafters. I stumbled backward, the floor trembling beneath me. Then she smiled, but I learned to play with my heart. When I blinked, she was gone. Only the tooth remained, now streaked with blood that hadn't been there before. Part 4. The Ridge of Hollow Beats. Li Shuang tried to stop me from leaving that night. "The mountain doesn't want to be found," he said, gripping my arm with surprising strength. "If you go, it will remember you." But I was beyond reason. My recorder was ready, notebook strapped to my chest. Every rational part of me screamed not to go, but something older, deeper, was pulling me toward that sound. I left before dawn. The mist clung to my legs, slowing my steps. As I climbed, the trees began to change, trunks twisted, bark peeling like burnt flesh. Some bore symbols carved in circles. Others had fingernail scratches gouged deep. The sound grew louder. Not only heard, felt, like a second heartbeat beneath my ribs. By the time I reached the clearing, my lantern was flickering low. The ground beneath me was uneven, soft, and breathing. I realized I was standing atop them. Dozens of drums buried in the soil, their edges breaking through the moss like ribs. Each one was made of hollowed wood, their hides stretched taut and glistening dark. The smell hit me next, sweet, rancid, unmistakable. Flesh. I knelt beside one, trembling, and placed my hand on its surface. Warm, beating. Something moved beneath it, pressing against my palm like a heart trying to rise. I hit record and whispered into the microphone. November 19th, 11:03 p.m., Baiyun Ridge. Source up, the ground erupted. A hand, pale, boneless, shot out from the drum and seized my wrist. The fingers were cold, but the grip was inhumanly strong. I screamed and pulled away, tearing my skin. The drums began to play themselves. The forest roared with hundreds of hollow beats, and between them came voices, wailing, chanting, merging into one. The fog thickened until I could barely see, and through the noise, I heard them whisper my name. "Play for us. Play until the ridge remembers." The soil burst open, and faces began to surface, eyeless, gray, gasping as if drowning in air. Their mouths moved with the rhythm. We fed them. We fed them all. My vision blurred. I remember dropping the recorder and running, branches tearing my clothes. The drums followed, echoing through the fog, until I fell and everything went black. Part 5, the last recording. I woke on the stone bridge with the taste of blood in my mouth and the fog burning my eyes. My recorder lay beside me, cracked, half buried in mud. When I pressed play, only static filled the air until the rhythm returned. 3 beats. Pause. 2 beats. And beneath it, faintly, a voice, my own, whispering something I couldn't remember saying. They took my hands, but not my heart. I stumbled back into the village at dawn. It was silent. Doors stood open, but no one was inside. Not a bird, not a breath. Li Shuang's house was empty too, except for one thing. On his table lay a drum, new, polished. The hide was fresh, glistening. The smell was wrong. I stepped closer and saw the faint outline of tattoo. A scholar's ink, still visible under the skin. My own. I ran until the ridge disappeared behind me, until the fog thinned to nothing. But even as I reached the main road, the rhythm kept following. It was in the wind, in my pulse, in the soft thud of my heartbeat. I moved back to the city, threw myself into work, pretending nothing happened. But every night when the world is quiet, I still hear it, far away but getting closer. Sometimes when it rains, the sound turns to knocking on the walls. Sometimes it comes from the pipes. Once, I swore it came from beneath my bed. I tried burning the notebook, smashing what was left of the recorder, even moving apartments. But it doesn't matter. The rhythm finds me. Last week, I received a package with no return address. Inside was a new audio recorder. My hand shook as I turned it on. The file name was simple, Baiyun_last.avi. When I pressed play, the sound was clearer than ever. 3 beats, pause, 2 beats. And then a whisper. The mountain remembers. I froze, because the voice that followed wasn't mine. It was Li Shuang's. And then, a woman's laugh. That night, I dreamed of the shrine again. The faceless goddess stood before me, chest split open, drums beating where her heart should have been. She leaned close and whispered, "The ground keeps what it's owed." When I woke, there was mud beneath my fingernails. And the sound, the rhythm, was coming from inside my chest. If anyone finds this recording, listen closely. You'll hear what I heard. 3 beats, pause, 2 beats. But if you do, it's already too late. Because once you recognize the rhythm, the drums will know your name.